I hope you're hungry because you're listening to Everybody Eats.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Everybody Eats podcast. We're here with our special guest today, Mr. Rashad Harris. What's up? Thank you for coming and joining us today.
No problem, man. Thanks for the invite, man.
No, for sure. So, as you know, we've just been meeting up with different businesses and just different people in the local area. So I believe it was Chris. I think he shared one of your posts, and then he was like, "Yo, you gotta check this dude out when it comes to content." And then I think at the same time, I think you DM'd me. I think we ended up following each other at the same time. We hit up a DM, and then I was like, "Yo, we gotta connect." So
yeah. Like, I'm always down for these type of conversations. So, once again, thank you for inviting.
Definitely. So, for all our listeners, make sure that you're checking us out on all platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are on there. Make sure to check out our page, especially now we'll be putting out a lot more content during this quarantine season. So on that note, we'll go into the episode. So if you could just briefly introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, where are you from, and then we'll get it rolling from there.
Yes, sir. So my name is Rashad Harris. I am a digital marketing strategist, and I own a company called the Rebel Society, where we do a lot of content creation, but on the flip side of that, we also make sure that our clients benefit from the content. So, like I say, to a lot of people, a lot of my clients when meet with them is that a lot of videographers, they would just give you one piece of content and then you just kind of got to make it happen with that. But what my company really focuses on is making sure that you find something that makes sure your brand stands out, but then also we give you strategy on how to actually monetize that or to get people to go to your website so they can purchase something or to be able to direct that traffic to a email list or whatever the case may be. So it's one part strategy, one part content creation. Outside of that, I am from Portsmouth in Suffolk, Virginia. And what a lot of people started to know me from is I started my company back in 2013. Was pretty trash starting out though. Super trash, but I did it on the side. Picked up a camera, did pretty much everything from commercials to weddings to baby showers to music videos, and realized that I didn't like doing none of that shit. The only stuff I really liked doing was to create content for small businesses. So I kind of stopped doing that, really focused on that part and the wedding part, and really just started to build my company after that. Went full-time in June of 2016, June 22nd of 2016. And then ever since then, it's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of learning lessons, but it's been a hell of a ride. So that's kind of who I am in a nutshell right now. So
Got you. So yeah, man, that sounds pretty interesting story. So I want to get more into so you said it's part content creation, part strategy. So how did you what made you kind of start that, right? I think you briefly touched it, but what made you say this is what I want to go into, this is what I like doing?
Right. So I classify myself as more I had to put a percentage on it. I'm more so strategy. I'm 70% strategy and 30% creative.
Got it.
So I went to college. I went to Norfolk State University, behold the green and gold. Norfolk State University. Went there for business management before I discontinued, and from there I worked with music artists in the area. This was, like I said, back in 2007, 2008, when when getting your music on blog sites was a major thing. So I was pretty much the guy in the area that was getting local artists onto Nah Right, Two Dope Boys, on Smash, all those sites that were popping back then. I was getting artists on those. And this was around the time that YouTube and everything was kind of popping up, and I realized being in control of your content was something major, because before I would like come up with like these dope strategies, but didn't have anybody to kind of execute.
Yeah.
So at that point, I realized that I kind of need to be able to do both of it, or both of those items, to really be successful. So that's when I had a business partner at the time who was the creative aspect of the business, and I was just the strategy part of it. And then I realized that I really don't do partnerships well. Like, I had a partner who really didn't put in the work that I put in. Like, he was a dope dude. He taught me a lot of stuff when it comes to, the camera stuff. But that's when I realized what creatives really are. And I wasn't that. So he was like a pure creative, was super creative. The stuff he would come up with was like crazy. But he just took forever on projects. So I was like, it's time for us to kind of, part ways. So we did that. Then I started my company now, Growth Society, and then I've kind of been doing that ever since.
Got it. So, I think that's actually a little bit important lesson. Sometimes you hear cutting people out of your life, but not necessarily. I feel like not necessarily always in a negative way, but I feel like that's kind of an example where you saw like, hey, like it's not necessarily. I'm assuming I don't know if you were. I'm assuming you came off on good terms, but sometimes like you're working with. Yeah, that's
definitely my guy. Like I saw him last year. There's something in the water, so we kicked it for a little bit. But so it definitely wasn't on bad terms. But it just, I feel like when you are an entrepreneur, you're in complete control of your life. So when somebody else is in control of different aspects of your life, they kind of make you not want to do that shit no more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Got it. So I think that's really dope. Edom, do you have any questions before we go on to the next little topics?
I mean, I don't know how in depth you want to get on it, but for listeners out there who are experiencing or have gone through the same thing, how would, I guess, based on your experience, what are the best tips and advice you can give on navigating that tough partnership environment or that situation relationship you had with
Yeah. I think you just got to be real, because like I said, it came to a point where and this was before I even touched the camera, so I didn't really understand like everything that was involved with, being a creative or creating content or creating video. So from my standpoint, it was just like, we have nothing else going on, and instead of us turning around this project in a week, like we said we would, it's taking a month and a half. So you got to be like open and willing to just have those real honest conversations. Like I don't really hold any punches when it comes to my tongue. So I just came up like, what's going on? And like people are, saying that we giving bad work, and that's not really, where I come from. Like try to have the utmost, integrity when it comes to the work that I put out. So, and around that time, he was being real with me. Like, you know what? This isn't something that he really wanted to do. As far as doing agency type work, like he really wanted to do creative stuff, but he also wanted to do a T-shirt line and stuff like that. And I wasn't really into that, so we just had to be real with each other and you know what, I feel like it's better if we just go our separate ways, and that's what we did. So advice I would say would just be to be as open and honest as possible, because that's what's gonna, lead you to where you're trying to go to. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's part. That's little conversations and parts of entrepreneurship they don't really tell you about. Having to go through situations where maybe you don't fully get along, or maybe you don't have the same vision as someone that you're working with, right? And like you said, that's fine. Like everyone's gonna have the different passions, everyone's gonna have a different vision, right? And if they don't align, like you said, you just gotta have those conversations. So I think that's definitely a good point, and definitely for those out there, I think that's something you could think about if you're ever in that situation, or if you in the future if you find yourself in that type of position. So what I want to I guess ask, so you said you're 70% strategy, 30% content. So 1,000%. So when it comes to strategy, are there any maybe tips you can give for those wanting to get into market strategy, or you can explain what exactly is, I guess you could first start, what exactly is digital, or just that marketing strategy, and maybe some tips for those who may want to get into it.
Yeah, first let me back up. When I say that I'm 70% strategy. I'm more so thinking I think more so business minded than more so creative.
Got it. Okay.
So, but as far as strategy in my business, that's really just coming up with like, what are your goals? How can we make those goals happen using the content that we're creating? So, like I said before, a lot of videographers, they're just going to say, all right, what's going to be the dopest visual that we can put together for this brand or this person? And once that's done, there's really no conversation or, communication on how to actually reach their goals with that. It's just like, all right, we gave you something dope, and now it's on you to kind of make it happen with that. So, with me, what I'm trying to do, like, I have a lot of meetings before I even pick up a camera. And we have like a brand profile session where we pretty much just go over your brand to kind of make sure whatever visual or what kind of, whatever we put out for that brand matches the aesthetic that they already have in place. So we talk about their target audience because that's vital. Like, you got to know who you're making stuff for. We talk about goals because a lot of things, when it comes to doing brand work, people have goals that they don't communicate to you. So it kind of makes it impossible for you to do a good job if you not know what you're up against. So somebody could, reach out and say, hey, I just want a dope visual, but in the back of their mind, they want to say like, hey, I want everybody in the world talking about this video. But if you don't know that, you're just going to come up with something dope, but it doesn't reach the people that they wanted to reach. And then it'll look like you failed. So that's kind of like my thing is like, put all that, on the table up front. Like I said, talking about goals, talking about brand, aesthetic, talking about their overall vision for all the stuff they got going on. Talk about their conceited goals. I ask everybody, like, what's your conceited goal? Like, my goal is to be like the top marketing or top, content creation agency in the Hampton Roads by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that I do is kind of, put myself in position to actually do that. But asking my clients those type of questions. But then on the flip side of, once we actually shoot production and get everything ready for launch, I actually have like a launch plan with my clients as far as figuring out like what's the best way to roll it out, what's the best platform to put it on. Should we do like a trailer before? Should we not do a trailer? What are the hashtags we're going to use? Like all that type of stuff to make sure that when you actually hit post on it, it's going to reach the most people. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, definitely. That answers. Because I've been going through just like growing this page. I've been learning a lot about social media marketing myself. And I follow people like Gary Vee, who kind of like gives different tips in his post about content creation, pretty much like how to make content that reaches the people that you want to reach. And how to like be authentic and all that. So that's just been something that I've been learning a little bit more myself. So it's great definitely to hear that, from your perspective. And something that you said that kind of stuck was when you said that you have conversations before you even pick up the camera. And that's funny because one of my mentors back in New York, he does a lot of different trades, but one thing that he does is kind of like contracting work, like inside the house, right? So he'll always show me pictures of just like dope designs that he makes. And then one time he was talking to me about how he deals with his clients, and he says that before he even say he's like doing someone's bedroom, right? He was like before he starts working on the bedroom, he likes to talk, have conversations, actually get to know the client on like a personal level to an extent, so that you can really create something that really fits what they want. You know what I mean? So like similar to like how you said some people have like goals that maybe they don't necessarily share with you when they say, oh, I have an idea for, the type of video. He was like, some people just say, I want a room with this, that, and the third. But really they want something like really specific, but they don't really share those goals. So he was like, once you can
a lot of people don't really say the things that they really want. And when you find somebody that does, it's very refreshing because it takes a lot of guesswork out of it. But a lot of people in that same scenario, a lot of people say, hey, I want to build an extra room, but then you have to really go into the question like, all right, so what is your reasoning for wanting this extra room? Yeah. Or what is the purpose of this extra room? If somebody say, hey, we just want an extra room, but you realize that the husband really wants to have his own man cave, and he wants to actually be able to have people over for drinks and stuff. Like, you know what? Then we need to add a bar for that. Or we need to have like a wall that we can put a 60-inch TV or something like that and be able to have the cords or whatever. So we got to build stuff like that. But if you don't know that information, you just gonna be like, all right, well, they say they want a big room. Let's just give them like a big living room or something like that. But that's not really what they want. So the only way you really know that is if you meet with them, kind of get a feel for who they are as people and what they actually have in mind, and really ask those probing questions. And then at the end of it, this is going to be a success because you're giving them what they actually want.
Yeah. So definitely, I think that's important for a lot of. Maybe, in my position, I wouldn't have to use as much, but, I guess people who have more of like client-based services, like when you're doing a lot of like custom, so people who do like, I guess like custom pieces, custom art, or, I guess maybe even like makeup or whatever. I think if you're more in that client-based, I think that's something that you could definitely use. Even, if it comes to clothing, right? If you do custom clothes, you really want to get to know the reason and like why they want this and how they want it, so you can present to them the best way possible.
Right, exactly.
Definitely. So I think that covers this. I want to touch collaboration in the 757 area, but I think we'll save that for after the quote of the day, so we can have a little bit more time and we don't have to rush that conversation. So, Ian, do you have any points you want to make before we wrap it up?
Nah, you guys actually covered everything.
All right, so we'll wrap up this segment and then we'll go into the quote of the day. What's up, everyone? It's segment 2 of this week's episode. So we have the quote of the day. So today, Edom has a quote, and we're going to guess who said it. What we got?
All right. So the quote, it is... Success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come.
Dang. That sounds
well-known actor. He's a male.
Denzel.
No.
Dang.
Will Smith.
All right, I wouldn't call him an actor. Just started acting, I guess, in the last 10 years, last decade.
So he's an actor.
I would call him well-known. But he's a well-known person. He's a well-known person, I should say. Not so much for his acting, but he acts.
Drake?
No.
Well-known person. Kevin Hart?
No, but close.
Close. So a comedian?
No, I wouldn't say comedian, but someone close to Kevin Hart.
Close.
That's all the hints you get.
Damn.
The Rock.
What?
The Rock.
Yes, sir.
The Rock? Oh, okay. Dwayne Johnson. Say it again. What's the quote?
So, success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come.
It's a fact.
Yeah, that sounds very Dwayne-ish. Makes sense.
Consistently pumping out Fast and Furious movies.
That's a fact. They don't like fast.
They need to stop pumping out those movies.
They got like 8. I was on when was the last time?
9, bro. 10 and 9 doing Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh yeah, because they did the spin-offs. They did Hobbs and Shaw, and I did like a Hobbs and Shaw 2. I think like coming out.
Yeah. That franchise needs to. Very honest, I think he should stop being consistent with that.
The first movie was like one of my favorite movies of all time, and to see where it's at now makes me like, I ain't gonna say disgusted. It's sad.
It's disappointing.
It's really disappointing.
I think after like 4 or 5, that's what it got me. Cause whichever one they were in Brazil, that one was lit. I think that was like Fast 5. I think
I started watching.
I think that was a cap for me.
Yeah, I feel like they could have ended it right after that. Like, to see everybody come back together, I'm like, okay, that's dope.
Yeah.
But to keep going, like, most.
I think I stopped at 7. I never watched any movie before. I watched all the videos, or all the movies right before, like when 7 came out, and then I stopped at 7, and I haven't seen one since. And to be honest, they out here going to what, space or Antarctica, stopping cars with their hands. This is too much.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen anyone since Paul Walker been dead.
Yeah, you didn't really miss out. So
they don't race anymore, so I don't know what the point.
Yeah, it's an action movie.
Right.
It's an action movie with cars. It's not like a racing movie anymore or anything like that. It's just but like honestly, I feel like for me they have like I think of it like the Call of Duty mentality, where Call of Duty puts out a game every year just cause, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they literally just like pump it out, and it's like, all right, is it really that different? Nah, but like people go crazy hype over it every year, or like 2K a little bit, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, but like just for the fact that they just keep putting those out, but at least 2K is like fun.
Yeah, like a lot of those actors in those movies, they only do that particular movie. Like Tyrese, he's not in anything else.
Yeah.
Ludacris is not in anything else. Vin Diesel barely does movies. So, everybody else is like, yo, we're just gonna eat off this one check that we get every $1 million, and then we're good.
If it works, it works. They get the hype though. They still bring the hype every year though. So that's the thing. I feel like they still manage to like, it's still Fast and Furious. So if they eating good, then like, hey.
I think a lot of people are over it, to be honest. Like, I just feel like people go to the movie just because you kind of invested in the series, but you don't really give a damn about what's going on right now.
Bro. But regardless, that was still a good quote. Ian, could you say it one last time? Or not?
Sorry, hold up. Sorry. Success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success, and greatness will come.
Yeah. David Meltzer, we have him on the podcast. That's one thing he always preaches, but consistency is key. When it comes to content creation, right? That's one thing. Well, I guess we'll talk about next segment is consistency of content. And I actually just made a couple videos and throwing those on. So we'll get into that because we can go on and on. So we'll get into that in the next segment.
Of course, I think I want to add one more. Like, I don't know if this technically goes into the next segment, but consistency really puts a test on how dedicated and really, to me, in my opinion, challenges your real motivation for why you're doing what you're doing. I think if you're doing it for monetary purposes, you're of course going to be less consistent because you want quick results, instant gratification. But if you really have an intense and real passion for this, you're going to be consistent. And
100%. So yeah, let's jump into the next segment because we can go on and on. So stay tuned. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Last segment of Everybody Eats. So I just want to continue that conversation. Edom just made a really good point talking about consistency. Test your motives for it, and it challenges you, right? So, for example, again, Gary Vee, preach him all the time. He always preaches consistency when it comes to creating content and posting, right? How are people going to know about your content unless they see? If you're posting regularly, consistently, people can see that, you have updated work, you're active, you're legit, all that stuff. When it comes to testing, I think that's it really does test you in the sense of especially if it's your brand, right, and you're going to be putting out content regularly, for example, right, and when you do, doing videos, even though, you can have like 10 clients say back to back, but like as a creative, you're going to want to make every project a little bit better than the last one, right? And that's where it comes with consistency when it comes to making content. Right? If you're consistent, you're going to be like, you know what? I just put 3 posts in a row. Maybe they're all similar. I want to switch it up. I want to try doing something different. Let me try adding something new. And when you're consistent, you're always going to be wanting to improve, right? Because it's something that you're constantly working on. You're going to be constantly making updates. You're going to constantly want to improve. If you're inconsistent, then it's going to be like, you know what? I'll put one post out, or I'll do this one project, and then maybe you don't do one for a little while, and it's gonna be like, you know what, you may not have that same, motivation or that same like spark to like, I want to quickly produce. You might just be like, you know what, or it may take you longer, or you'd be like, let me just do what I did last time. But when you're consistently doing that, you're gonna be like, I want to upgrade, I want to do better. So I think that's just something that I think I've definitely been learning myself. This is, doing this podcast, when it comes to learning things on Instagram, just learning that process. It's like, I want to keep trying to do something new, trying to add, add a little more sauce, right? You know what I mean? You got to like add your own sauce into it. So, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's crazy that you mentioned that because like when I first got started, like my whole mentality was quantity over quality, right? And so like I used to like put out videos at like a crazy rate. Like I used to go out and shoot random stuff. Like go to like the downtown area where I'm at and just start, put together like a quick little 15, 30-second video. And then it's crazy because like I used to hang around some people who are like hardcore, like creative videographers. And they're like, you gotta take your time and your stuff is trash. But like they used to be like real, like they talk hella shit. Like your stuff is trash. Like you need to just take like some months on this one project. I'm like, nah. Like I believe that like people really don't give a fuck about what I put out until I start to get better at it. And the only way I'm gonna get better at it is if I keep shooting. Yeah. So like Gary Vee actually said this, like, you don't get quality until you have the quantity aspect of it. So you don't get good at something until you start putting in those hours. Like you keep shooting, put out something, keep shooting, just keep putting out something, just keep going through that same process over and over. Because a lot of people say, like, I'm gonna shoot something, I'm gonna just hold on to it for 6 months to a year. But in that time frame, you got getting better. You just, handicap yourself by not putting it out. Yeah. So that's where I really got to the point, like, years ago, like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can that's, like, the best I can do in that particular moment and then put it out. And then I'm going to still do something next week and the week after that and the week after that. Yeah. And then each project is going to consistently get better and better over time. But a lot of people feel like you got to have this super high quality out the gate, but it never happens like that. Like, even when I look at footage or videos I put together that I felt like was super dope for that time, I look back on it like, yo, that shit was trash. Like, it was like super trash. But the only way that I'm able to get to where I'm at now is just by being super consistent with everything I'm doing. So, like, people will say now, like, even I think of it, when people say, like, hey, you definitely improved. I look at it like being super like a backhanded compliment because that means I was trash before, but he never would have told me. So, consistency is the key to like everything. I tell everybody, like, if you want to like be the best at whatever you're doing, you just got to keep going hard at it every single day. You got to show up every day. You got to put out something every day. Yeah. And then over the course of weeks and months, you'll see yourself getting to where you feel like you should be at. Definitely. So, and even like, I put a video up last week that was from a dream I had probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where like I walked into a regular like basketball gym, and I saw Kobe standing there. And like I said, I've never been like a big Kobe fan or nothing. Like I used to hate him as a kid. I used to hate his little lopsided little fro he had. Like I hated everything about him. Yeah. Although he tried, I truly hate him. Between him and Tuck Duncan, like I hated both of them. Yeah. But I had a dream that, this was after he passed and everything, but he was in the gym just shooting. And then he said, like, in my dream, he was like, you just got to keep shooting. And I think I had like a camera in my hand. I was like, so I just got to keep putting out videos. I'm like, nah. He was like, even in my worst games, I was continuously shooting to get into the flow of everything. So to me, and then I end up waking up right after that. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? That's thinking like, taking it outside of being a creative or outside of putting together visuals, it just got me thinking of, you have to create your own opportunity. And the only way you keep doing that, I use the metaphor of keep shooting. So I use that in like all my Instagram posts and all my videos now, but keep shooting. So you have to keep finding ways of being creative, keep finding ways of creating your own opportunities. You got to keep finding ways of doing things that's going to get spotlight, or keep doing things that's going to get people talking about whatever you got going on. So you got to keep, putting up those bunches. Like I think of somebody that's like James Harden or Kobe, where they putting up 81 shots. Or they putting up, like they used to put up like a hell of a lot of shots. Yeah. But at the end of the game, they end up winning, or they got 50 points. But if they put up 1 or 2 shots and it wasn't hitting, then they would win over 10 or something like that. Yeah. I'm from the 90s, so everything I do is like basketball metaphors.
Yeah.
But,
That's fine. That's what we love.
yeah. But it just got me thinking, like, you just got to keep putting together the vision. You got to keep getting people talking about the work that you do. You got to keep creating your own opportunities, because that's one thing I'm big on, is creating your own opportunities. So you got to keep doing that. So you got to keep shooting to make sure you get in exactly what you want. Get exactly what you want out of each situation.
Definitely. So that I had to write this down because I was about to forget. But this is like a thought that I kind of been chewing on. Is that sometimes I've caught myself doing this sometimes, and I think this is something that can happen to a lot of people, where maybe, for example, you start a company, you're starting a business, brand, whatever, right? Starting a page. And sometimes when you start out, you're putting in all the work, right? You're being consistent. You have all the right, the motivation, the passion. Then maybe there have been instances where maybe you do reach your goal of, say, I want this many followers, this many views, this many reposts, whatever, right? You reach that, or this much money. And sometimes people forget, or people stop doing the consistent work that got them to that place. And then they plateau, right? And I think that's something that, I've caught myself where maybe I had a big, say, like in my analogy, right? I had like a big mountain in front of me, and I'm like, I'm never going to get over this. And then I'm putting in the work, right? And then I'm like, I just did it. I look back, I'm like, I just did that, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe I hit a point where it's like, wait, hold up. Maybe like I can tell that maybe my growth momentum just slowed down, or something just stopped. I'm like, what happened? And then I look back, I'm like, I stopped doing the things that even got me to this place. I was stopped being consistent. I wasn't, if I was being very meticulous on something, like I'm thinking like, no, I got it. I don't have to double check that anymore. And then you start kind of like making mistakes, and you start slowing down, and it's like, whoa. That's where it's key that like that consistency is like, one thing I said, the thing about being consistent is that you never know how long you have to be consistent for. You just have to be consistent, right? That's it. It's just like, it's an ongoing forever process, and like you said, it just leads to continual growth, because you'll just keep getting better and better. And once you stop doing those things and you stop being consistent, to stop doing that work, then you're just going to plateau. That's why you just think about it in terms of music, right? That's why you will see artists that either are popping artists, or maybe like some old heads that are still good in music now. The only reason they're still there, like Jay-Z's been making music forever. The only reason he's still here is because he's been somewhat consistent, right? It's not like he was making it for 2 years and then he stopped. No, like obviously when he was younger, he's putting out a little bit more. But even now, like, he was just on Jay Electronica's album. You know what I mean? Like, you're still going to hear Jay-Z, and he's consistent. He's still putting out work, right? So, in terms of, whatever, it doesn't have to be music, but whatever field, a lot of times you'll see the biggest stars, artists, actors, right? Whatever it is, the reason they're at this point is because maybe they've been doing it. Like, if it's like the old heads, if they've been doing it for 20, 30 years or so, like, they were consistent. Once you stop and fall off, and it's okay. Like, say, you want to switch career paths and stuff like that, that's a different story. But, like, if your goal is to stick with whatever company, act, or whatever that you're doing, you have to be consistent with it, right? And that's how you build, and that's how you get that fan base and that cloud and whatever stuff that you're chasing, or just like keep reaching people, more fans, followers, whatever that your goal is to make. That's how you get it. Through that.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, even when you brought up Jay-Z, like, people don't realize it, but Jay-Z literally put out an album every year for like 7 to 8 years. And that's how you end up getting better. Rihanna put out an album every year for like 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, people forget that Rihanna was trash when she first came out. Doing the whole, like, Ponder Replay, that shit was not hitting. Like, but, like, people, like, get all about that. Like, her third album, when she kind of, like, hit her stride, and then after that, it was like, what? Like, she felt that lane open up, and like, it's go time. Like, let's put in that work. Like, Lil Wayne got hot because he put in, like putting out, like, music, like, at a hella rate. Like, Russ was, like, the same way, so you have to be consistent. Like, that's kind of like what I'm into, like, right now. Like, I've always been into that, but just trying to get people to realize that, like, the only way you can really build a name for yourself is be super consistent. Yeah. Like, I look at people like Russ, who, is documented for putting out, like, a track every week for, like, 3 years before he really started to blow up. And, or somebody like, I don't know if you know the comedian Andrew Schultz. He had a podcast with Charlamagne. But he literally put out a comedy Instagram clip every week for like, he's been doing it for like the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And now he's probably like one of the top, grossing comedy acts in the world right now. Just because you're being consistent with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're becoming top of mind when it comes to whatever that thing is that you do.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't realize that being top of mind is super key for whatever you got going on. So to make sure that people, like when they think of podcasts and you want them to think about you, the only way you're going to be able to do that is continually put out content and relate to your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And have people talking about whatever you got going on. Or with me, when it comes to, hey, I want people to think of me when they think of, I have a business and I need a dope visual for that. I want you to think of me.
Yeah.
So the only way I'm going to get you to do that is if I put something out every week or something I do, or I give you tips and tricks on how to actually improve your business using your visuals, or I do something like I'm doing now. I'm creating, during the corona, I'm doing free content for free short form content for small businesses in the area, free product content for small businesses. So the only way you're going to be able to do that is by being consistent.
Yeah, definitely. Edom, do you have any points you want to make?
I just want a couple of thoughts for a while, but like you. I mean, to piggyback off of consistency, I think one thing that might be overlooked is immersing yourself in the field you're in. So if you make podcasts, immersing yourself or listening to other podcasts, seeing how they're done, figuring out how they structure their shows, even taking notes is a good thing. If you make a clothing line, going to other clothing stores or looking on websites and whatnot, just looking and see how their clothes look, how they're designed, how they get their inspiration from their designs, how they're, if you can, see how another maybe small business that's a clothing line might price their clothing, how they go about their rollouts, how they promote, a whole bunch of other stuff just like really goes into it. You can learn a lot from watching what other people do. People in life, a lot of people tell you learn from, at least something I tell myself is a smart man learns from the mistake of others, but a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistake of others. So, even if they do make mistakes or they have their successes, you can learn from that, write it down, and see how you can apply it to your business model. And from my personal experience in terms of consistency and doing what you originally did to get you there, I've learned in terms of designing not to slack, not to get too lazy. Taking a long break can be pretty detrimental in terms of your learning skills. There's some skills you may lose that you may never get back, but just keeping at it. And of course, from the outside looking in, it looks like, oh wow, like you look at an NBA player, you're like, oh, they've always been at this point, or wow, they're doing a great job. And it's so easy it's so easy to look at the final product and not think about what they did or how they practice and how they prepare to get to where they are. And the same thing comes with you, like you said, the backhanded compliment of wow, you've improved so much. Like you said, it's a backhanded compliment, but it's a compliment all the same.
Right.
Yeah, in my opinion. That though, those things do matter. And of course, if you weren't at a good level, of course, when you first started, someone should have told you and let you know instead of letting it rock like that. Right. Of course, you definitely learn a lot, and in recent experiences, I recently designed something that I personally think was my best work ever. It took me about an hour, and it did take a while. It has been a while since I picked up designing, but it's just something I'm personally really proud of, and it just it's encouraging me to get back into the whole consistency aspect of it and to just not slack and keep it going, because
right.
You never know. And like Pensky keeps saying, now is the perfect time to for us content creators to keep going, keep pushing stuff out, and don't slack, because everybody is literally stuck inside the four walls of their house. So,
right. You're absolutely right about that. And to piggyback off what you just said, I feel like this is something that I've been kind of preaching for, past 6 months or so. But like you said, it's always good to immerse yourself into whatever you got going on. I definitely don't feel like you should really be looking at just each and everybody, especially when it comes to podcasts or creating. You don't need to watch everybody, but whoever's at the top that you really admire, pay attention to their moves, because that's what's actually going to kind of point you in the direction that you need to be going to, as far as how they actually put up their content, how they actually promote themselves, what collaborations are they doing. With the areas that I'm in Virginia, I feel like a lot of people, they just look at the people in this general area as their competition, or people that they should admire to be like. But nobody around here is really doing it on a high level, so you end up getting stuck with just doing the basic shit that everybody else is doing. So I tell everybody, the blueprint to success is out here, especially with online and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. Whatever you want to do is already there for you. You just really have to pay attention and watch the moves that's being made, because people are showing you exactly what they're doing and what they've done to actually get to where they're at. You just got to pay attention.
No, that's definitely true. One thing that you said, I want to make one last point. You said pretty much looking up to people, whatever, I guess, business you're in or whatever, you want to look up to people, pretty much who are at the top of that either industry or that platform, right? But I think one thing at the same time, I think we spoke about this when we had our phone call. One thing that sometimes I notice is that sometimes it's easy to look up to someone and you try to emulate them and try and mimic them. And that's good, but I say make sure you're doing that to an extent. For a couple reasons. One, because you don't want to. The main reason is to avoid discouragement, right? Because you can get discouraged if, say, I'm looking up to Gary Vee, right? Granted, Gary Vee, he's been doing this for years. He has millions of followers. So if I make my content and try and mimic myself exactly like Gary Vee, I may get the mentality I'm not getting the same reception as Gary Vee. I must be doing something wrong, or you know what I mean? Maybe mine isn't like this. So you want to take the good parts of it, right? Gary Vee is consistent. He posts multiple times a day. He makes content real genuine. So I can mimic those aspects, but I don't want to be my camera quality isn't like Gary, so I can't be like Gary. You know what I mean? It's you don't want to look up to them too much. You still want to keep yourself, you still want to keep it yourself and make sure that you tailor your content to the way that you want it, right? So when it comes to, something like videography, right? If you're looking up to a certain videographer, you can be like, yeah, he's cool, I want to be like him. But then I would say, take everything, all the positive, everything that you can learn, all those skills, and then you want to make sure to apply your own sauce to it so it can still be yours, right? And one thing that Gary, really emphasizes is being unique. He was like, a lot of people come up to me saying how do I want to get into photography, I want to get into this, but it's such a saturated market, right? And they're like, how do I stand out? And any market you go into, any lane, any business is at this point is going to be saturated for the most part. The way we are in the world, everyone has there's so many clothing lines, I'm sure there's so many videographers, photographers, so many podcasts. There's so many already out there. So granted, whatever you start is going to be saturated. The way that you stand,
you have to find your niche. Though.
Exactly. So your
niche isn't going to be saturated.
Exactly. So find your niche, and then also at the end of the day, one thing he says is that the most unique person or the most unique aspect about your company is yourself, because nothing is more unique than yourself. So when you add your own sauce and add your own touch, that's how you make it unique, because it's like you know what I mean, and no one else is like you, literally. So it sounds so simple, but sometimes once you start to realize it, you think, hey, you don't have to. I can be say, for example, I could be like Gary Vee, I could be like Ernie Leisure, I could be like these podcasts, but I'm still going to put my own sauce into it. And that is how that's how it's easier to keep your passion into it, because it's yourself, it's you yourself, but you're just looking up to people and taking whatever, successful traits that they have. So,
I'm 100% with you. It's crazy that you mentioned Gary Vee, because when I first started out, I used to be a fan of his when he first started out years ago.
Yeah.
And in this past 3, 4, 5 months, I realized that me following him has actually hindered me a lot of ways. And I say that because just by following him and whatever, all that he says and what he speaks about, I wanted to be like him. Like, when I first started, I wanted to be a BlackBerry for real. So a lot of stuff I was doing was like telling people like, yo, you should do Facebook ads. But I never ran Facebook ads. Or I should say, no, you should put out content every day. But I wasn't putting out content every day. Then it took me up into probably a couple months ago when I was like, you know what? I'm a hypocrite because I'm telling everybody, all my clients, to do the things that I feel like should work, but I don't have any experience with actually doing any of these things. And so once I actually had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, yo, you're telling people to do all these things, but you're not doing any of these. So what you need to do is kind of like take some time for yourself. And instead of preaching to people what they should be doing, you need to be doing these things. And then once I started to do that, things started to like really open up for me. Like I started to run ads on my own content. Stuff started to, kind of blow up for me. Or I started to put out content on a consistent basis. Stuff started to really work for me. Or I started to do stuff on different social media platforms that I wasn't doing before, that I'm telling other people that they should be doing. And then it started to work out. So I just say that, like, and to go back to actually what you just said as far as putting your own sauce on it, it's good to have some type of inspiration for what you should be doing. It's at least trying to get the flow of how everything should flow, but sooner or later you gotta add your own sauce to it, like you said, because that's what's gonna make you separate yourself from everybody else. Because everybody has their own niche. Like in my business, my niche is I work with like unconventional businesses to help them grow, their brand on social media using content. So you can't put me in the same box as the guy that does wedding videos, or the same box as the guy that does music videos, or the guy that loves concert footage, because I'm not that person. You can't even put me in the same box as the person that does, corporate videos, because my stuff isn't corporate. But if you're a business that wants to do something completely outside the box and gets people talking, then you'll reach out to me. So once you know who you are and what you represent, it's kind of easy to build your niche. And once you have your niche, then it makes it super easy to kind of get clients, market yourself, all that good stuff. So.
Definitely. I really love those points, man. We got a whole nother episode if you want it. All right. Do you have any final remarks?
Nope, I got everything off my chest.
For sure. So, on that note, I want to thank you, Rashad, again. Thank you for joining us this episode. I think we had a very engaging conversation. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys took something out of it. Little gems, little nuggets, man. Like, content creators, I've been preaching this really heavy. Similar to how you said, like, as our podcast, we're responsible for practicing the things that we preach. Honestly, that's just a social responsibility. So something we've been grinding out, and I've been, having conversations with myself, making sure that I'm not getting lazy and I'm doing the best that I can. And it's a good feeling. Like, I've been getting some pretty good feedback on the content that we make, so it's definitely encouraging. So again, even today I said, make sure while we're quarantined, make sure to go reach out to your friends' businesses who have content. Go encourage them. Go repost. Go do something. Not everything has to be monetary. It's not, you don't have to necessarily buy something, but a retweet, a repost, and a DM to say you're doing good work. That's all free. So make sure you go reach out to someone. Like I said, thank you again for joining us this episode. All our content is available on all platforms, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Everybody Eats Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at everybody_eats. On Twitter, everybody_eats_. We're on TikTok. Make sure you follow our content, like, subscribe, repost, share with your friends. Stay safe, stay healthy, and wash your hands. See you guys next week.